Welcome to Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm your host, Allison Preisinger-Heggins. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is a podcast exploring society, culture, and current events through conversation. We aspire to create an open, respectful, and equitable space where guests may feel free to share their truth and lived experiences. Our core values are rooted in community, connection, and personal development. Stories help us learn, relate, and grow. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. I would like to acknowledge the land on which this episode was created. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people past and present. Land acknowledgement statements are an important part of honoring those whose land we now live and work on. We begin each episode this way to help spark ideas and keep these conversations in the front of our minds so that we may continue to be open to doing better. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. Some additional next steps to consider would be to seek out the stories of Native people from our shared history and today. Spend time asking yourself difficult questions and challenging norms that may be linked to colonialism. Engage in your community around topics like land tax, curriculum, hiring practices, decision-making, organizing, and reparations. Seek out media created by Native people. The more you explore, challenge, and learn, the more questions may arise. But this is how we grow and connect. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I want to take just a quick second to share how grateful I am for an influx of support and a stream of new, amazing people who I have had the fortune to interview and line up to interview soon. The rest of this season is going to be filled with such a wonderful variety of conversations, and I'm really excited to share each one with you all. And this episode is no exception. On this episode, we have our very first sponsor outside of our Patreon page, which we launched in January, which was completely unexpected, and it happened after our conversation was done. Our guest, David Skato, just offered to sponsor an upgrade of our Zencastr account. So, Zencastr is the platform we use to do our interviews. And we've just been using the free version since we started. And there are a couple little things that an upgrade will help with a lot. One of them being transcriptions and other things that we can use to edit a little better. So a huge thank you to David Skato for being one of our very first sponsors. So pretty amazing. We appreciate it a lot. David Skato is a filmmaker based in Los Angeles, California. David is the owner of David Skato Productions, which is based in Burbank, California. And David directed his first feature, Got a Story, a crime drama in 2010, which went on to be a local cult film. Since then, he has produced, written, and directed 5 features, with the latest release being Once Upon a Lifetime, which is his first worldwide release. I can personally recommend the film. It's heartwarming and carries such a beautiful message. Also, be sure to have some tissues. So good. When David is not busy writing or directing films, he works on his novels, with his debut, Famous, landing number 19 on Amazon's best-selling list. His dream is to have a theatrical release of one of his films and hopes to launch his own cinematic universe in the near future. And you'll hear much more about his plans and dreams and his story upcoming in our conversation. So thank you for being with us, and please enjoy my conversation with David Skato. Well, David, thanks for joining me on Take Notice. I'm glad to connect with you. And you are all the way down in LA and in sunny, warm weather, as it sounds like is fairly usual for you. And we're just chatting about there's some sunshine up here. But how are you today? You said you're taking it easy for the weekend and all. How's the weekend been going for you?
So far, so good, Allison. It's Super Bowl weekend, so not too much work going on. Had a couple of meetings on Friday, but since then, it's just been me at the house watching TV, preparing for the big game. I'm going to do it at the house. I'm not going to go out. I don't, want to have to deal with any of that craziness that's going on in LA right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't know as much about football and Super Bowl and all that stuff myself. I did at least know that it was today, but I'm out of that kind of loop a little bit. So it's a little bit nuts down there, huh?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. So yeah, traffic is crazy. People everywhere. Bars are full. Even even with the pandemic. So
Yeah,
it's a,
yeah.
it's a lot going on.
People have definitely started to ignore the whole pandemic thing, it seems, in some circles. so
That is
so
true.
probably a good idea to be sticking at home and a little more mellow too. That sounds nice.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So you, how long have you lived in the LA area? Did you grow up in that area
No,
or
I've been here for about 6 years. I moved to LA primarily for filmmaking.
nice? Yeah.
Yeah, so I moved. I was a filmmaker. I'm born and raised in Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
So I'm far from home.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, so about 6 years.
Okay. Was that transition straight from the Mississippi area to LA, or did you live anywhere else in between?
No, straight from Mississippi. I was trying to choose between Mississippi and New York for, to advance my career. And of course, LA is the land of movie making. So I said, I visited both and I decided on LA for the weather and I've been here
Hmm.
ever since and just fell in love with the city.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, big transitions like that can be a little bit nerve-wracking. I imagine. I had some culture shock when I lived in Boston for a while because I didn't grow up in a city, so growing into a city where people are all around, some
Yeah.
culture shock. Did you find some of that from
I,
coming from Mississippi to
Oh yeah,
LA?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very different people, but what I did find, I found that there are more people like myself, and I didn't have that back home. I didn't have a lot of creatives surrounding me, and I found that LA has more people like myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
You kind of find a more connected community in the arts world, I imagine. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. That's wonderful. When you were growing up in Mississippi, who were you surrounded by?
Well, mostly family, friends. Again, like I said, not really creative people,
Hmm.
in a sense, but a lot of characters. So I grew up around a lot of different people that have very different personalities, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about writing. Dealing with so many different people from back home. Just paying attention to personalities, just being aware, and then just really listening to how different people talk,
Mm.
and taking a lot of their life stories and keeping it in the back of my mind. And I never knew I was gonna do filmmaking or anything like that. Never even dreamed about it. It just wasn't a thing from where I'm from.
Mm.
But now that I think about it, I pull a lot from growing up from just people. Yeah, yeah. But as far as growing up, just mainly just like anybody,
Mhm.
friends from school and my kin and yeah. One thing that's different though, I hung around a lot of older people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I did. Growing up, I found fascination in hanging around older people and learning different things. And I found that I learned better I'm not going to say better, but I learned a lot by other people's experiences.
Mhm.
And I was glad I was able to pick up on that, not to have to experience things for myself. I learned by watching them, seeing them, what they do, and not making the same mistakes. And a lot of times we have to go through that. We have to learn by experience, but I'm just grateful that I didn't have to do that with a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, because you learn from those who have been through it before. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you have, siblings growing up? Do you have
I,
siblings?
I do. I do. I have two
Yeah.
older brothers,
Okay.
two older brothers in the same household. I have, some other siblings on my dad's side that I don't really talk to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he has a lot of other children.
Okay.
So, but for my household, I grew up with two older brothers, and
Okay.
of course, very influential in a lot of things I did and a lot of decisions that I made.
Yeah, yeah, being the youngest, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
What'd your parents do when you were growing up?
As aforementioned, my dad never really talked to my dad.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
raised by a single mother.
Okay.
My mother just pretty much worked in the grocery store industry, I guess you can say.
Okay. Nice.
for as far as I can remember, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just single parent home. Again, no father figure. So
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Did your mom kind of do different jobs within the grocery industry, or did she stick with one thing?
she stuck with one thing, mainly what is it? The bakery, I think, is where she
Oh.
worked. Baker or
Mhm.
the bakery deli,
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
vice versa. And
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so the 3 of you and your mom, she must have had her hands full for sure.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, I think it was more staggered out though because my oldest brother is
Okay.
six years older than I. So he left. Once he graduated high school, he was out of there. He moved to Chicago, and then my other brother, which is 3 years older, it's the same thing. Once he
Okay.
graduated, he left. So it was kind of
Okay.
staggered out a little bit. You know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
there was a time where we all were there up until I was about I don't know 10 or 11, and then he was out.
Mhm. Who were some of you mentioned some characters. Who are a couple characters that pop out in your mind when you think back to those times?
Oh Lord, my uncle, my uncles. I had a lot of crazy uncles.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they're all deceased.
Mm.
My mom, of course, which strong character. I learned a lot from her, and I guess one of the most influential people is my grandmother, which I reference a lot in a lot of my films.
Okay.
Um, just she was just kind of the head of the family, and that's where we all gathered and learned just a lot of different lessons. Not directly, but just kind of seeing the way she moved and kind of the way that she maneuvered through life, and just kind of learned a lot of things. But I would say definitely she was probably the top influencer for
Mhm.
um, me being level, grounded, and care about people because
Mhm.
everybody loved my grandma. So everybody would come far and wide just to come see her. So
Mm. Oh, that's sweet. Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, grandmas are kind of the best for sure.
yes, oh yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that it wasn't really something that you thought you would necessarily do growing up, filmmaking and things. But it seems like you're fairly observant, and I've noticed that that's a key thing for actors and writers in general. And I'm a songwriter myself, so I recognize that that's like I'm always observing, and then like you kind of take small ideas from conversations or from people that you see. So was observing people and characters something that you were kind of conscious of as you were growing up, or is that something that you kind of developed?
I think it was developed. I think
Mm,
that I was cognizant of people.
mhm.
Even at an early age, I would just recall watching people, and I have a really good memory. Like I remember little things. I remember really small details about just anything. Any conversation, anything, and I wouldn't say that I watch people on purpose, but I would say that I do it unintentionally.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
I'll see things and I'm like, that's interesting. And I never forget it.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
I could literally go back to first grade, and remember my first day of school,
Really?
oh
Wow.
yeah, easily. I can remember things on the board. I can remember what the teacher talked about,
Wow.
you know, and a lot of those things are just kind of pivotal moments, because, we're talking the first day of school.
Mm.
Oh man, God, the first day of school was awful.
Oh, now I need to
I,
hear about it, but
oh
but keep going.
Oh Lord, yeah. Because I didn't go to school until first grade. I didn't go to kindergarten. I didn't do Head Start. I didn't
Okay.
do preschool or anything. I went directly to first grade. That was my first outing.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, the first day was tough. It was
So there's some reason why you would at least remember some very good detail from that day then, huh?
I
But you
do.
but you saying you do in general and like other days that aren't as significant as well? Is that
Mhm.
that's
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
interesting.
I wouldn't say days, but I do remember
Okay.
details. I
Okay.
remember, like I said, things that were on the board.
Yeah.
Just in general, exactly what the classroom looked like, my teachers' names, all
Uh,
of them through
wow.
Lord through high school.
Uh-huh.
So a
Man.
little crazy, and I know it just fills my head with random crap, but it makes it easy to come up with names when I'm naming my characters.
Yeah, and for writing, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm just thinking through. I was just talking to somebody about not being able to remember my third grade teacher's name, I think, or something. So that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Mrs. Cantrell.
There you go. Now I've got a pop quiz for you. Not that I could double check the answers, but
I'm pretty sure of it.
yeah, right. So what about that first day of school then? What can you tell us about it?
Oh Lord, first day of school. So I had this friend, and apparently, and the first day of school wasn't the first day; it was my first day. So
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure how long it been since everybody else was there. But my first day, I had a friend that lived across the street, and I didn't know what to do, so I'm at school and I'm following him everywhere. Long story short, I went to his classroom, sat in a seat, wasn't my classroom.
Oh.
Even before that, the craziest story I always tell people about how I went to the cafeteria for breakfast, and of course didn't know what I was doing, so I'm following everything he did, verbatim. Whatever he picked up, I picked up, and somehow I forgot to pick up my milk. And when we sat at the table, he was pouring his milk in his cereal, and he was like, and I'm opening mine with no milk. He was like, "You don't want any milk?" And I'm terrified to go back up by myself to get the milk. So I'm like, "No, this is how I eat mine." So I'm just crunching cereal with my hand. It was the funniest thing.
And then for the rest of your life, you have to eat dry cereal.
That's right. In front of him, have to eat dry cereal because this is the way I eat it.
Yeah. Oh,
but yeah, so I sat in his class, and the teacher was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, I go to this school, and I'm all confused. And she walked me to the office, and they figure out where I belong. And so the rest of the day, I'm kind of embarrassed because I was sitting in this girl's seat, and she was really upset about it. But she was standing over me with her arms folded, like, "Get out of my seat." And I'm like, "No," because it was right behind my guy. So it's like, this is my seat. Anyway,
I'm not going anywhere. Yeah.
These little weird stories that.
Yeah. Stuff you go through as a kid,
Stuff you go through. And you infuse that in your writing, and you may see that pop up in some film or something that I do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you never know, and it might come in handy.
Right. In real world, I learned that real world situations are more relatable. When I'm always told that I write inauthentic voices, like, even by other writers, they'll say, "Man, I need to go back and rewrite my stuff because everything you write sounds real." And I'm like, probably because it is real. These are conversations that I've heard, that I've seen or witnessed, and I just meshed together, even some that I've had myself.
Yeah.
Even though it's a fictional story, it's fiction made up of parts of actual things that have happened.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. Yeah, definitely more relatable. That's something that I've learned too. The more specific you get with certain things, the more relatable. And it seems counterintuitive because you'd think that only you went through that or something like that, but it's not the case. Or because it allows people to think of their experience with something similar or something in an easier way. So that's interesting. Yeah. And being able to remember those details from your life, I mean, that makes it even better, I imagine. That's pretty great.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I believe that, the world is just metaphysical, and I think that we're all connected. And even these little nuances of things that you see, when you're watching TV, television, or whatever you watch, your subconscious picks up on things, just the smallest little details, the smallest little annotation of the way people speak, it picks up on it, and you know that is real. You don't say to out loud, "Oh, hey, this is real," but something in you knows that it's real, and it gives you that connection. And everybody knows when something is out of place. You ever walked into a place and you just knew if something was wrong? And it's like, how do we do that? And it's the same for things that are projecting from the screen. You can walk into a place, and if you're a set designer to do the correct job, I can walk into a house that's supposed to be the hoods of Mississippi, and I can look and be like, "That's not right." Just because I've been there, So you need somebody that knows those things. So these little specific little things can make or break your whole movie. I'm not going to keep going on this, but yeah, I wanted to kind of mention one thing that Forrest Whitaker does when he directs. He uses color. He uses color. If you ever paid attention, he uses distinct colors for every character. So
Ah,
if one
okay.
character is on screen or is they're seeing, the color surrounding them will be yellow or be purple for the next, it'll be
Ah,
blue. So next time you ever see anything he direct, pay attention to that.
okay. Yeah, that's interesting because it's kind of a subtle subliminal.
Hmm.
You get a certain feeling from it, I imagine, using
Oh yeah,
color. That's
for sure,
interesting.
for
Yeah.
sure. So
Huh.
whether it's your color palette in post or is it something that you design on set, which both, if you do both, it'll work better. But yeah,
Hmm.
and even that is a little bit beyond metaphysical, but just you need little things. Like you need little
Yeah.
things that if you got a teenager and you're in the teenager's bedroom, you need the nuances that tell that it's a real teenager bedroom, because you don't want something that's for an adult or whatever, for a
Right.
little child or however you put it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
those things make the difference.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, definitely. So, what kind of brought you to? So, you say you moved to LA about 6 years ago. What kind of happened before that to get you interested in filmmaking and want to shift whole locations for your career? What was there a kind of a turning point, a moment where you realized filmmaking was the thing?
It was. I think that so filmmaking became the thing when I was doing music videos at one point,
Mm,
and I always wanted to do more, and I wanted to tell stories. And when you're doing music videos, people have these specific ideas where they just want to stand in front of a car and throw money. And to convince them to put a story inside of the video was difficult. So
mm,
long story short, did a movie. It was very successful, and so I decided that that's what I was going to do movies. And the reason that I left Mississippi is I felt like I couldn't grow. I felt like I was at my max peak of filmmaking in Mississippi. And this is because, there are not a lot of resources there. There's not a lot of crew. There's not a lot of actors, or, SAG actors or trained actors. Not to say there are not a lot of good actors, because there is, but I needed to see how can I grow? How can I, get an agent? How can I make my films bigger? Because, my dream is to have, theatrical releases. So how do I get there? And being in Mississippi doing, really low budget independent films was not going to get me there,
mm,
in my mind, and it could have, I don't know, but I wanted to take a chance and, bet it all on myself, because, the one thing you can't control is self, and I felt like it really didn't matter how I was going to do it. The how didn't matter. It's just to go ahead and do it.
mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, left not knowing a soul in LA.
Mhm.
Not one soul, didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I had a few savings, but no, I was just do it, and I just did it, and I'm still here. So apparently I made it.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm
Yeah,
still
6
here.
years isn't nothing, that's for sure. Yeah. When you arrived, you didn't know anybody. Did you have something lined up job-wise before you got here? You just you lived off your savings, or did you just sort it out as you got here kind of
I
thing?
sorted it out as I got here.
Yeah.
So started with, just living off savings. I didn't have anything lined up or anything. I do, however, have a background in information technology. So
Mm.
what I realized when, I was meeting a bunch of different people about, different things like crewing up equipment, and I realized, I can't even remember exactly how. Anyway, I vaguely remembered that I was going through a meeting with, doing some lighting work, and I realized, or trying to get some lighting equipment for my next film, and they were having problems. Anyway, long story short, I
Yeah.
I, I relaunched my computer company, and it was extremely successful, which I
Oh,
just
okay.
sold. I just actually sold it
Ah.
about 6 months ago, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, it was man, I couldn't believe how bad the infrastructure was.
No, that's interesting. So you were able to kind of fill a gap where there was a void in LA. I guess I don't know enough about it. What specifically was that gap?
So I majored in college in computer science, information
Okay.
technology,
Uh-huh.
with a focus on networking. And the gap was their networking, the infrastructure there. just their networks, it wasn't any good.
Oh,
When
okay.
I went to different companies, you had a lot of people that was just kind of patching it up, had what I call band-aids, and they didn't really fix the issue. So there were, companies were always having these problems, and I went in, gave a proposal. Hey, this is what I can do. This is how much I charge. And from there, it just kind of started blooming. And I did this in Mississippi years and years ago,
Mhm.
but anyway, it just started blooming, and I had hired a couple of employees, and yeah, just had a whole company.
Yeah.
you know,
And then you're able to move on from it and sell it 6 months ago, which is pretty
right.
awesome, I imagine.
hmm
Yeah. So you're able to solely focus on the filmmaking and writing now.
Which
Is that?
so I still focused on filmmaking and writing. That's the
Yeah.
thing, because I guess it comes so natural to me. And then, like I
Yeah.
said, once I started hiring employees, I didn't do anything.
Yeah. You just kind of, it was all
I didn't,
delegated.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
managed that. I also managed a real estate portfolio,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I do that also, which COVID has prevented me from buying more. But
It's nuts.
I
Yeah.
reached out to my realtor actually Friday, and I'm gonna try to start picking up some more property this
Oh,
week.
okay. Yeah, I imagine it's a little bit wacky right now. Seattle is nuts. I don't know where. I imagine everywhere else is kind of nuts too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So no,
that's
it's
good.
it's not. That's the thing, and I think that's what makes me different from any other filmmakers. I'm not a struggling artist.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not a starving artist. Like
sure.
I don't really need anybody to do anything as far as, because what I noticed is, when you're in this business, people talk down on you a lot, right?
Mm.
And because people people in this industry they beg pretty much. People that are trying to achieve a goal, they're begging, and they're, I'm not going to curse on your podcast, but they're kissing their
All good.
round,
You're
right?
good.
So they're
I hear
kissing a
you.
lot of ass just to
Right.
try to convince somebody to do something for them. And I've never had that problem,
Because you've been
because
able to do what you want to do and fund it in whatever way you need to fund it, kind of thing. Is that?
exactly, fund
Yeah.
it, and I don't allow people to talk to me any kind of way, and I don't need your money. Money is the
Mm-hmm.
last thing that I need,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm fortunate. I don't ever forget where I came from. So I'm very fortunate to be able to say money is the least of my worries. Now I can't go on and produce a $12 million film. I can't afford it. Right. But I can afford to do little independent films all day, every day if
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
not, I can just decide today, hey, I want to do this movie, and I can go round up a couple $100,000 and just do it, and I think that makes me different, but at the same time, it doesn't get me to my goal. Those movies are not going to go international theatrical 4,000 theaters.
Sure.
So it puts me in a spot. How do I get there? And I don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Something
I
you're
don't know
still
the
working
answer.
towards. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of mine. That's where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And until then, I'm satisfied with my independent, films.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You said that one of them did really well. Was that one that you were working on once you got to LA or when you were still in Mississippi?
Actually, two in Mississippi did really well, and my latest release did really well. My
Okay.
my latest release, which is called Once Upon a Lifetime, it actually went international. I got full international distribution. It's on every streaming platform you can possibly name. Also, cable TV, Dish, Direct TV. So it's everywhere,
Nice. Yeah.
And that was a first for me. And I was kind of skeptical about signing with a distributor because I'm so used to self distribution.
Okay.
Spending my own money and recouping my own money.
Hmm.
But I wanted to get a broader reach. I needed a farther reach, and I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And so far I'm very very happy with it. Yeah, so far that in the movie that you mentioned, my first ever film was called Gutter Story.
Okay.
And it was a film of I got the neighborhood rappers together to make a movie. These are the same
Uh,
guys I was doing music videos for.
okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Okay.
got them together, and they're all local famous at the time.
Sure.
and it was very successful.
That's awesome. When did that come out?
Oh Lord, 2010, I think.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah,
think I remember seeing that on your. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
yeah,
Okay.
it was a long
That's
time
awesome.
ago, but
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah, but no, it was phenomenal. We had no idea what we were doing, and it was just kind of we shot it in one weekend.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing. I didn't
Right.
know that we were doing anything revolutionary, right?
Sure.
I spent all of $176 to make that movie.
Wow. That
We
is
used
nothing, man.
that is nothing, and it's again, this is when I didn't know. I didn't
Sure.
know that you couldn't shoot a movie in a weekend. Had no clue. I shot
Hmm.
music videos over the weekend, so why not?
Right.
You know. So yeah, and it's it gave me something that I think a lot of school trained filmmakers don't have, and
Hmm.
that's the ability to think on my feet, do things, change things, do every single job on set, and make it happen. Just
Hmm.
make it happen without learning that it costs $10 million to make a movie. So now I learned that I can make a movie for little or nothing if I really wanted to.
Hmm.
you know, and I apply that now.
Yeah. In some ways, being trained can kind of put limits on what you think can be possible, kind of what you're saying.
Hmm.
And so to go into it without having any of those things in mind, that kind of can open it up to some really creative stuff too.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And
Oh,
that
I
was
worked
one
with a director. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead. I'll ask you in a second.
No, no, I was saying I worked with a director on a film that was I don't know if you call it classically, whatever you call it, school trained,
Uh-huh.
and he had he had no clue of independent filmmaking.
Mm.
And it was so sad. Like he was trying to do everything using the studio system, and I'm like, dude, we can't do it. We don't have that kind of time or budget.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
in guerrilla filmmaking, you got to shoot and you got to shoot fast.
Mhm.
There's no 57 takes.
Right.
You may get three max, and we got to move on.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, working with a person that's school trained on a guerrilla set doesn't work well.
I imagine that's a pretty exciting way to work on films too, is you can plan out probably and structure it, but then it's all just okay, whatever happens, and then you got to work with what you got, right?
Pretty much. Work
Yeah.
what you got, and you got to steal shots. You can't afford a permit to shoot on Hollywood Boulevard, so you steal it,
Mhm.
right? You
Right.
just steal the shot. You go out there and you shoot until the police come, and then
Yeah.
you run. And then you got what you got. You
Yep.
run, and then whatever you got. So hopefully
Yep.
you get it on your first take.
Make it work.
Make it work.
That's pretty great. I remember a while back, I had some of my brother's friends or some are in the film industry, or one of them is in the film industry now, but they were doing films and they did the 48-hour film festival, I think it
Okay,
was.
I tried
Maybe it
that
was
before.
even 24. I don't remember, but
Right.
it sounded pretty intense.
It
Have you done something
is.
like that?
I did the 48 hour in Mississippi.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
40 hour. I didn't win. Our film was terrible. It was so bad.
That's
I would
great.
never show that film to anybody.
It's hidden in a closet somewhere.
It was bad. I mean, I did
Oh,
all of the work. I did every single thing except act in it.
oh,
So,
okay. Yeah.
of course, you can know that's tough in 48 hours. All in 48 hours. So it was tough.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had to edit it all in 48 hours.
Oh
I
man,
couldn't
yeah.
break it in sections and pass it off. I couldn't
Uh-huh.
write it and then pass it. I did literally every single thing.
Wow. Yeah,
Stayed
that's
up
a lot.
all night. Yeah, just
No sleep. Yeah.
yep. And
Oh
it
man.
showed so bad.
But I'm sure that there is something. I mean, you learned a lot, I'm sure, from an experience like that, even if it
Mhm.
was not what you would share with anybody now necessarily. But
It was. It
it
was.
sounds like a cool experience. Yeah.
Well, we got a cohesive movie.
Oh, okay.
So that's the thing. You can watch it, and a lot of it was, there were no trained actors or anything. These was just kind of some people I found that
Sure.
was willing to do it in the spur of the moment, just, yeah. And then you have to kind of pick a random, whatever topic, subject
Mhm.
matter, and ours was a holiday.
Oh, okay.
It's like, how do you do a holiday movie in 48 hours with no props? So,
Right. Oh man.
And yeah, one location. These people
Oh,
woke up in a garage and they didn't know how they got there. It was anyway.
that's great.
Moving on.
Yeah. So let's see. That was one question that I was going to ask, but you already answered it for me. Was you went to school for computer technology, but not for filmmaking. So what was something, or was it someone, or just the act of doing, going through and figuring it out as you go that kind of taught you, or was there somebody influential in that filmmaking education process, or
Nope, just me.
yeah.
Crazy thing is, I mentioned I had a company way back when. Oh Lord, I don't want to state my age, but way back when I had a computer company, and this was fresh out of college. And I needed a commercial. I went to the local guys, and the price that they quoted me was way too much. And I was like, I'll just do it myself. So I bought a little camera, filmed it, filmed it, aired it. I did figure out something great with airing a computer, and this is my business savvy. I noticed that if you bought a block of ads, ads for the TV, it was cheaper. I didn't need that many, but I also learned that you didn't have to put the same commercial on those ads. I mean, on those spots.
Right.
So I could put whatever I wanted in those spots. So I bought a block of ads and then I resold them packaged with doing TV commercials.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, so I already had paid for them, but I sold them, with about a 20% margin,
Mhm.
for the ads, along with selling them doing the actual commercials.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll this much for the commercial, and then I can get an air for you. So I was the guy that had the complete package for the local spots. It's like, oh, you don't even have to worry about it. I'll shoot it in, I'll air it.
Wow, yeah, that's
You
perfect.
so made a
Nice.
bunch, and that was my intro into filmmaking. Just doing
Okay.
local TV spots, and
Yeah,
yeah, and I can tell stories now. So I've moved
yeah.
on to the music videos, and segued on into filmmaking.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
So
that's another you mentioned telling stories a few times, and I was gonna ask you, because this podcast, of course, is about telling stories. So what to you is, I guess, just the important thing about sharing and telling stories? Because you write do you co-write, or do you solely write all your films?
I solely write all my films.
Okay. Yeah. So what's important about sharing and telling stories to you?
To me, so personally, it's just something that's in me that I just have to tell. I don't know what it is that drives me, but I have so many different stories in my head that I want to get out to the world, and so that drives me to tell. But I do think that as a storyteller, of course, we have a responsibility. And I know a lot of people will say the responsibility is for social or whatever, reasoning, but I don't. That's not my sentiment. My sentiment is my responsibility is to entertain. So my stories are entertainment first, and everything else second. Now my stories do have some things in it that, socially or whatever the case is, but mainly it's, I want you to be entertained, whether that's feeling the emotion of the pain of the characters or feeling the happiness of the characters. I want you to connect with those characters and feel what they're feeling, and then take you on that roller coaster to, at the end of the day, you feel good about yourself. You feel good about, there are people out there with issues. Nobody's perfect. And I want to make sure I portray the world where things don't always end on a good note. But even if it doesn't end on a good note, you still here. You still live to fight another day. And that goes for Gutter Story, that goes for I Am Woman, and that also goes for my latest, which is Once Upon a Lifetime. Depending on who you ask, it doesn't end on a good note. It ends in divorce. I hope I didn't spoil it for everybody. But at the same time, it ends on a good note because she was able to find herself. So sometimes you have to go through things to find who you are. And, you didn't make a mistake, right? You didn't, you lost your marriage, but you didn't lose. You know what I'm saying? You may have
Yeah.
lost your marriage, but in the end, you still won, right? You're still victorious about
Mhm.
just everything that's transpired.
Right.
So I just want
Yeah.
to kind of make sure I leave that mark. And that's no matter what stories I tell, I want to make sure that it's not over,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I have a question that I ask everyone about who is influential to you. But before we get to that, do you have anything else you had in mind that you wanted to share today?
hey, just make sure you go watch Once Upon a Lifetime. It's available until March on VOD. You can just search it on any platform that you have. I'm just plugging myself right now.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it'll be on cable TV after March, so you can watch it if you subscribe to, I don't know, Spectrum, whatever you have in your
Yeah.
area. So, but yeah,
Perfect. Awesome.
so just a shameless plug
Yeah. No shame in it. That's great. You work hard. So.
there.
So you mentioned your grandma was a big influence for you. Do you have any story that you'd like to share that has to do with your grandma or anybody else that was a big influence for you?
Oh Lord, so many stories of my grandma.
Hmm.
Once Upon a Lifetime was written because of my grandma.
Oh, okay.
The whole, I wouldn't say the whole thing, but a great deal of it was because my grandma on her deathbed, and it was, of course, this is a sad moment for everybody, and seeing that she was, really scared. I can tell that she was really scared, and I think she knew
Hmm.
that this was it. This was the end, and she didn't know how to let go. And I recall they had the bed laying flat, and all she was asking is, sit me up. Can I sit up? And they was doing that with something with her legs, and they needed the blood flow to go down. Anyway,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any words, right? I had no words to comfort her, knowing that, this is the end or whatever. There was really nothing anybody could do. And, and I have always felt that, wow, what could I have said, and all I told her was, just take some rest and we'll be here when you wake up. And I knew she was never going to wake up again once she was gone to sleep. So, after all of that transpired and she passed and everything, the words came to me. The words were, even after this life is over, you still gonna exist, right? You will still exist, just in another plane. And that was the seed of Once Upon a Lifetime. So that kind of drove the story, being that we need to live every day to the fullest, and don't ever worry too much about the future. We need to focus on now. We need to pay attention to the people that's around us now. We need to love the people now, not when they're gone. We need to celebrate them now. And, and that line is in Once Upon a Lifetime, because the grandmother is scared to pass, and, because she's getting older, and she's just terrified. So the words that the character gives her is exactly what I just told you. Even when this life is over, you'll still live on. So, there's
Yeah.
nothing to be scared of.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, great influence, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Man.
So
Yeah. Sounds like we better have some tissues ready if we're going to watch
you
it.
better have, yeah. Oh Lord, so many people in the premiere was crying because,
Oh, yeah.
because, that connects you. When you lose somebody that you really care about, that once in a lifetime does connect you to that, because
Hmm.
you remember them, and you remember, the times that, even myself, of course I'm not perfect. And I remember the times that I wish I would have went to see my grandma, but instead I was over here partying,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like, I wish I would have had the time, like her last New Year's, I wasn't there. I was too busy partying,
Mm.
and I wish I
Hmm.
would have spent that with her.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
things like that, so you just makes you pay attention. But, people come and telling me stories about, whomever had just passed, and it was just
Mm.
really, really, it felt comforting knowing that the character was comforted on the film.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
So,
Yeah. And maybe you mentioned this already, but when was the premiere for?
July 4th of 2021.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
this was the live premiere. We had
Right.
I do it with all my films, a live red
Nice.
carpet premiere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the movie officially was released December 21st of this year.
Oh,
No,
okay.
last year,
A couple months ago.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to checking that out. And then also Gutter Story. Can we find Gutter Story somewhere?
You probably cannot
Oh man.
find
It's
Gutter Story is
hiding somewhere,
nowhere. Gutter
huh?
Story is nowhere to be found unless you have a DVD copy from way back when.
Ooh,
I
nice.
I
Okay.
looked at putting it on Amazon Prime. I Am Woman is on Amazon Prime. You can watch that for
Okay.
free. But I looked at it and I tried to get it transcribed. I tried to get the captions. You have to have captions and everything.
Oh yeah.
Nobody could caption Gutter Story. Gutter Story is Gutter Story is where I'm from. I'm from the projects of Mississippi, right? We're all country or used to be, and we
Mhm.
all talk with slang.
Yeah.
And yeah, nobody with the exception of people that are from where we're from can understand the language.
Mhm.
Like it's God, it's like a whole different language. And I never realized that until I started, associating with people outside of where I'm from.
Oh,
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we pretty much got our own language and I didn't know. So
Yeah.
when I shot the movie back then, I didn't realize we had a whole different language. So now nobody can caption it.
Oh
Nobody.
man.
Like
Yeah.
they'll send it back and say, we can't do it. We don't know how to do this. So,
Oh man. You might have
but
to
anyway,
find someone from home to do it or something eventually.
yeah,
Or
I could caption it, but I don't have time. I don't have time
sure.
to caption the
Yeah.
whole book. And it's not going. I mean, the cost versus the time versus the reward is.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, people will see it, but you know what? It's done. We made the money. It's done. It's an
Mhm.
exclusive,
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
right? If you
A
got the
gem.
DVD, you have something that nobody else will ever have.
Yep. Yep.
So
That's pretty great. Awesome.
yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share or put out there that where folks can find you or anyone else that you want to highlight?
Well, you know what? You can always find me just by looking for me. But I do want to, I guess, if you're interested in anything we're doing, you can go to davidskatoproductions.com. We have our latest films that we're working on there. I'm also looking to broaden my filmmaking by, introducing other talents as far as directors, writers, even producers, so definitely looking for co-ops on, a few things. Of course, as a producer, if you decide that you want to co-op, please bring something to the table. I get a lot of producers that say, hey, I want to help produce this. Like, what are you going to do? You got to be
Mm,
able to do something to add, not just sit back and shadow me. That's not what a producer does,
yeah,
but
right.
yeah. But as far as a writer, if you write, we're going to definitely start looking. So stay up on davidskatoproductions.com and you'll start to see opportunities for filmmakers, storytellers
Nice.
to,
Perfect.
definitely get some opportunities to, we want to start pushing out 3 films a year. So,
Oh, great. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join me for Take Notice, and it's been great to hear your stories, and I look forward to looking up your films. Yeah, I look
Thank
forward to
you.
it.
I
Yeah,
had a great time. Thank you.
good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. It would really help us out if you could take a couple of minutes to review our podcast. You can do so through your podcast app or by visiting our website. It's takenoticepodcast.org. Thank you for your support. Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger-Heggins with help from many. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Heggins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.
Hear them saying that they're doing right, why they take away our human rights. They want to say they're on our side, with all of their smiles and their alibis. Now is the time for us to organize and realize that together is one, is how we can make a change. Here I say now is the timeline for us to organize, to centralize.